In this video, I'm going to be replacing the driver's side door latch on a 2017 Ford F-150. In my case, I'm doing this to fix the frozen latch issue that a lot of these trucks have. But obviously this video will also help you if you've got a broken latch that you're trying to replace. Check out the description for a list of the specific parts that I used, as well as some links to some tools that are used in this video as well. To begin this project, we need to take off the door panel, so we'll start by taking off this triangular trim piece up by the mirror. It's got some clips that hold it on, and you just need to kind of gently pry it off and pull it straight out, and it just pops right off. Next, we've got a couple trim pieces around the door handle that we need to take off. This top one has got a little groove in the bottom that you can get a pry bar or a screwdriver into. Just be very careful with this. It takes a lot of force to get this thing off, so it kind of feels like you're going to break it, so you just want to kind of get that back behind there and pull that straight off. And eventually it'll snap off, and that exposes the screws behind it. Next, there's a trim piece below the door handle we need to remove. I use a couple different pry bars here and work on the side and the top at the same time. And that snaps off and again exposes a couple of screws underneath that we need to take off. Next, we've got 7 screws that need to be removed from this door. They're all using a 7mm socket. One in the upper corner by the mirror, 2 on the door handle, 2 right below the door handle, and there's a couple on the bottom that I'll show you in a second here. These are the 2 screws on the bottom of the door. You can see right there, and then there's one on the other side. Both of these are at a pretty good angle, so just be aware that as you're taking them out, they do not come straight up and down. And again, these are using a 7mm socket to remove them. Next, we're going to work our way around the sides and the bottom and just pull the door straight out to release the clips that are holding the door in place. With those clips released, we can just lift the door gently and remove it. Make sure that you don't pull it too far from the door at this point. There's a couple of wires and cables that we need to remove first. Now we can unplug the power windows switch as well as the power lock switch. Next is the release for the door latch cable. There's just a little piece that you just kind of push down on, and that releases it, and then you can lift that piece right out. We unscrew the manual door unlock and then remove the gasket for that as well. Next, we need to remove the door speaker. There is a plug that needs to be removed, and then there are 4 screws that also need to be removed. 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. These screws also use a 7mm socket. Now we remove the weather stripping from the bottom of the window. We just need to pull up on that and just work our way across the door. Next thing we do is remove the window controller from the door panel. This is so we can just plug that back in and use that to run the windows up and down. It'll make it easier for us to remove the glass. Once that's removed from the door panel, we bring it back over to the door and just plug the white connector back in so that we can control the windows. Next, we remove this plastic vapor barrier. We just want to do it slowly and try to keep that black material on the edges intact so that we can put it back on. Now we use the window controller to lower the window so that we can have access to the clips that hold the glass in place at the bottom. First, we're going to remove the clip on the hinge side of the door. This is a lot easier if you have two people, so that when you lift one side up, they can hold it while you're releasing the other side. But if you have to do it by yourself, a little trick that I used is to put a wood dowel underneath it, and that way it'll hold it up while you're doing the other side. There's a little tab right there that you just have to push with a small flathead screwdriver, and once that's pushed back, then you can just lift the window up. And in my case, since I'm doing this by myself, I'm going to put that dowel under there once I've got that lifted up so that it doesn't drop back in. Next, we'll do the same thing on the handle side of the door. We have to poke a hole through this foam to show that hole so we can get to the window back behind there. It's a little bit difficult for me to show this here, but it's just exactly the same as the other. It's just a little more tricky on this side. Just so you can see it here with the window removed, you can see right there is the tab that you need to push back on the latch side of the door. Now we want to lower the window control all the way to the bottom, and then we can lift the glass out carefully. We kind of have to rock it back and forth and tilt it a little bit to get it out. Okay, next we're going to take out the left hand side of the window regulator. We're just going to take the one side off and so that we can move it out of the way a little bit and make it easier to take the latch out. We've got one screw right there, one nut that we just need to take off, and then up at the top behind the white foam, behind a different hole, we have to peel this back to get to that one, and you can see it right there. We'll take those off and release that, and then once we have those off, we'll just move that out of the way and kind of push it onto the bottom of the door panel so it won't get in our way when we're doing other things later. Next, I'm just going to put some masking tape above and below the door handle, just so that as we take it off, if it's dangling there, it doesn't scratch the paint, just as a precaution. Now we're going to remove this plug on the end of the door, and underneath that is this bolt that we're going to take out. Then we've got two nuts that are holding on the back of the door handle. We're just going to go up inside the door and remove those two. Next, you can see up inside here, there's this piece here that's holding this door handle cable in place. So there's a little tab in there. We just need to stick a screwdriver in there, loosen that, and pop that open so we can remove that cable. Then we just kind of wiggle the door handle around and pull that right out. It'll just kind of dangle there. Now we're going to disconnect the cable from the door handle. There's a couple of tabs on the side that kind of need to be pinched in, and then it can be pulled through that hole. You can either use a needle nose pliers or just use a screwdriver and kind of do one side at a time and kind of wiggle it out. Once that's removed, then the cable goes up through the hole, and just spin it around and pull the end out. Now that's disconnected. Okay, next we're going to disconnect the rod that connects the locking mechanism to the key. This is only the case if you're trying to do the driver's side door. Otherwise you won't have this, but we just basically put a screwdriver into the end and kind of give it a little twist to spread those apart, and then that should kind of pop right out of there. Next, we've got 3 Torx T30 screws that need to be removed on the side of the door. Then we use a socket to take off these 2 last bolts that are holding the latch mechanism together. We pull the latch assembly out a little bit, and you can see there are a couple of electrical connectors that we're going to have to remove, a black and a gray one. Got the black one removed. I pulled the latch assembly out a little bit further so I can get to the gray one. And now I'll show you kind of an easy way to do this with a pair of needle nose pliers. If you just kind of put it in so that one side is on the tab that you need to push down and the other side is directly below that on the solid surface, just kind of gently pinch and pull, and it should just come straight out. It's pretty slick. You notice that this trim tool is tapered on the end here. I discovered that that is kind of an easy way to get these rods out of there. You just kind of slide it in from the side, spread that apart, and take it and the rod up at the same time, and it pops right out. With that rod removed, the last thing we need to do to get this latch out of the door is just carefully feed this cable back through the hole in the door. We want to be careful that we don't damage the mechanism that attaches to the door, and feed that all the way through, and then we can just take that off. Now that we've got that latch assembly removed, we need to disconnect the cable from the latch assembly. And first thing we need to do is to remove the base of the cable, and we just want to take a pair of needle nose, one edge on the back of the cable and one on the metal piece, and just kind of pinch, and that pops right out sideways. Then we need to remove the end from that hole. I made this a little bit more difficult on myself than I needed to. I should have removed the back plastic piece before taking that out, and it would have been a lot easier. Now we need to remove the rod that connects to the key on the door handle. On this one, you just kind of spin it around and slide it down and spin it and slide it. Just keep going until it pops out. Now we've got one more cable to remove. First of all, we just need to release it from this little piece that kind of keeps it out of the way. And once that's removed, then we need to remove the orange base of this cable from the metal. Just kind of slide it out with the needle nose pliers, similar to what we did with the other one. Now before we go any further, we're going to remove this screw and this one over here, and that will actually remove the latch mechanism from this plastic backing piece. And I've done that, and you can see there's the latch. It's kind of free, and there are the white and black plastic pieces that kind of hold it in place within the door. Now it's much easier to remove this last cable, so we'll go ahead and do that. Pop that out of there. Now here's the old latch compared to the new latch, and you can see that Ford has added a fairly significant, very stiff spring on there to pop that latch back open again. I know that they've had issues with the door freezing for a while, and they had all sorts of bulletins about it. But thanks to another video that I watched, which I'll post in the description, I'm fairly certain that the issue is this. But time will tell. Winter is coming soon, so I will find out and post details about that. So now we're just going to kind of start putting things back together in reverse order. We'll put this cable in there first. Pop that in, lay it in that groove, and get that end snapped into place. Now we'll take a needle nose pliers and we'll snap the orange base back into its slot like that. Now we'll take the door handle cable and feed it through and get the end back through the hole and get that so it's connected as it should be. As you can see, without the plastic pieces in there, this operation is much easier. Now again, we'll take this cable and put it into that slot. Use some pliers to snap that back in place. As you can see, I've connected the door latch mechanism back up to the plastic support. And on the one side is that black piece that kind of acts as almost like a nut on the other side to hold it in place, and the white piece that it's attached to. And all the cables and everything are connected to it. So we'll feed this cable back into that support right there to keep that in the right spot. Now again, we just kind of do everything backwards on the door to put it back together. So we're feeding that door handle cable back through that hole there. Kind of let that sit. We'll reconnect the rod that goes up to the manual unlocking mechanism. Next, we'll snap the gray plug back into the spot where it goes. And you just snap it in place and make sure that it's firmly connected. And then we will do the same thing with the black one. Okay, now we've got the lock mechanism kind of pushed back into place. We've got the door handle cable fed through. We've got the manual lock fed up through that hole. And on the other side, we've got that cable fed back through, ready to be attached to the door handle. And we've got the key manual unlock rod that's sitting in there. Now I'm going to reattach these two nuts that are holding the plastic brace in place for that door latch. I'm not going to tighten them all the way until I put the other three in on the side. Next, we're going to put these three torque screws back in, tighten those up. Tighten these the rest of the way. We'll reconnect the door handle cable, and then we'll also reconnect the short rod that goes to the key mechanism. And we'll snap the door handle back into place. We'll reattach the two nuts that go on the inside of the door handle to hold that there. Then we'll put back the bolt that goes into the side of the door handle from the outside of the door. Tighten that. Next we'll reinstall the window rail, and we just reconnect the nuts on the bottom and on the top as we did before. Next we put the window glass back in the door. Just have to kind of be careful and kind of carefully feed it in. Make sure it's not hitting anything. Get it into those grooves and then carefully lower it into place, and it should just snap back in. Now we can reinstall our window stripping. Just start on one edge and push it down all the way across. Reinstall the rubber gasket for the manual door lock. And put the plug back in on the door for the door handle screw. Next I'll roll the window all the way up just to make sure that everything is still working properly. Want to be very careful before we install the speaker that we pay attention to these screws. There's 3 with a pointed end that go in the door, and there's 4 with a flat tip that go into the speakers. So I've got the 4 speaker screws put back into place, and the white plug has been snapped back in as well. We'll reinstall the plastic vapor barrier. Make sure we line that up with the black adhesive that's around the edges. Now it's time to reinstall the door panel. Before we do that though, we're going to need to reattach the plug for the door lock. We're going to need to reconnect the plug for the window controller, and we need to reattach the cable for the handle. Just the same as we took it out, only just reverse, and then we've got to put that rubber grommet back in place for that cable. And then we just kind of hang it from the top and snap everything back in and put our screws back in, and then we've got our door lock cap that we need to reinstall. If it's not going in well, you might want to consider ordering a new one. They're not very expensive. Otherwise, maybe put some Loctite in there to kind of help hold it in place. Alright, once that's tight, then we just need to put our screws back in to hold the door in place. So we've got 1 on each side of the door handle, 2 below the door handle. We've got 1 in the corner up there and 2 in the bottom. And then we just snap our piece below the door handle back on, snap our door handle back on, put the triangular piece up there in the corner, and we're good to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out the description below, where I've included a parts list of tools needed, and some other useful information. If you liked this video and found it useful, then please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel, and using any affiliate links I might have below to purchase any of the items that you might need. Thanks a lot.